Today, we're talking about artificial sweeteners, applied knowledge leading to sustainable fat loss outcomes, research review that looked at people who lost weight and were able to keep it off for years, chronic loneliness and how it affects your health and cortisol levels, progressive overload as an actual psychology of life and philosophy of how you should live, practical takeaways to wrap up. So it'll be jam packed, full of info. Let's jump right in. This will be a shorter episode, I hope, than yesterday. That's the intention. Artificial sweeteners, part one of this mini item topics here. Artificial sweetener, everyone asks, should I do it? It's in diet sodas, sugar free syrups, sweeteners, and protein bars. Men have heard that they spike insulin, they wreck your gut, they trigger cravings. I used to think that too. Yeah, Diet Coke would trigger you to want to have more sugar. That's something that I had thought in the past would tell people, and I have been corrected. When research compared people swapping sugary beverages for artificially sweetened beverages, and from artificially sweetened beverages against people who just drank water, the artificially sweetened group lost more weight. Not because the sweetener burned fat, but because the zero-calorie option they actually enjoyed helped them stay consistent in a way that plain water didn't. Plain water is boring, and I have 18 different ways it feels like to get someone to drink more water, more liquid, more fluid. It's a fat loss strategy to help keep you full on water. It really is, but let's figure out a better way to do it. An example, if you on video, I'm holding up a 40-ounce container, and in this container, I will fill it with my soda stream that's 14 ounces of carbonated water with 26 ounces of regular water, and then I have lightly bubbled flavored water or sweetened. But it tastes sweeter, honestly. If you've ever had carbonated water from that, it does taste a lot sweeter. And that's what I'm drinking, my shameless plug, Driven for Health mug my family got me. Help keep me talking. But if we can find different ways to put more liquid in you, you actually will be able to manage it. Going from, I'm a Coke Zero guy, this is a Coke Zero household, that's significantly better than 150 calories that are going to be in a can of Coca-Cola with 40 grams of sugar. So, at the most practical level, someone trying to reduce their calorie intake, swapping out artificially sweetened beverages is a very useful tool in the nutrition toolbox to help you lose fat. Now, where is, I want to be honest with the limits of what we do know. The gut microbiome research on artificial sweeteners is real, but it's early and it's somewhat incomplete. There's evidence that certain artificial sweeteners alter bacteria populations in the gut. Whether these changes are actually helpful or harmful, we don't necessarily know just yet because the research is too early. The honest answer is that we have to continue to study this and the changes over a very long time to the response of the foods, the liquids, the things that we put in our bodies to see how it actually impacts us. We can't fully anticipate how they do respond to compounds that they've only existed in the food supply for the last 50 to 60 years. We need to play this out over 100 to 200 years in a sense to get a very full scope to see how much change this actually happens. Now, if you prefer to skip artificial sweeteners because you think that they will cause you harm, that's definitely perfectly fine. There are so many ways to just flavor water, from infusion of fruits and vegetables into it. And think of a spa-like treatment. Throw a couple slices of cucumbers into your water, and it's like you're at a day at the spa. All right. And this is a completely reasonable choice to say, hey, I'm not going to have artificial sweeteners. Now, one of the things that I always tell with clients is we have two different worlds that we live in: wellness world and body fat loss land. And you have to determine where you are at in the overall spectrum of that. Meaning, body fat loss land, artificial sweeteners are 0 calories and are a significant improvement over 40 grams of sugar in one 12-ounce can of cola or pop or however you want to say it, soda. All right. If we frame it this way, then you can swap out what we call polar pops, those giant gas station styrofoam cups of pop or soda. If you can swap that out for a 0 calorie, then you're going to impact your waistline significantly different than the hundreds of calories that could end up in that there. Next topic is why knowledge has never been the problem. And more than ever, knowledge is everywhere. You can get endless amounts of access. Literally, you are living like a king in today's world with the amount of access. And given AI is now a thing, that is an incredible benefit for you to be able to leverage it even more and have access that kings and royalty didn't have even 100 years ago. I've traveled 50 states and multiple countries, continents. Not many people have done that, especially doing it with a family of 6. It is very unique, interesting, and exciting time to live in, but the knowledge is not the problem, it's the application of it, and this is where we have to figure this out. Most guys already know that how they should be eating. Put 2 plates in front of someone, grilled chicken and vegetables versus a burger and fries, and obviously everyone's gonna tell you which one's gonna move the needle in which way, okay? But a study that also shows you what actually happens when you give people more information about their food choice. And researchers had a town mandate that every restaurant post full calorie and nutrient information on every menu item. So town wide. The hypothesis was pretty straightforward. If people can see the numbers, they will make better choices. What actually happened was people ate worse. Not the same, but worse. Because instead of ordering 400-calorie salad, people looked at the 600-calorie burger and thought for 200 more calories, I can just have what I actually want. The information did not improve behavior and it gave people a new and more rational feeling and justification to figure out what they're going to do with their behaviors. And that that's a big challenge, right? If someone is uh, making worse decision, but you can justify it like, well, for it's just like the small, medium, large. Well, for an extra 35 cents, I can just get a large, and you justify up. Those findings matter because it tells us something about human behavior and behavior change over the long term. It's we have to focus on the structure, the knowledge, and a system that focuses and allows you to make the right choice over the wrong choices. Removing the decision from the equation as much as possible so that you're not relying on yourself to make these calls when it's game time, in a sense. When you sit down at the table and you're looking at a menu and you're hungry, is going to be a different outcome than if you sit down and you've planned out what you're already going to eat and it fits into your day. And most men are that who are in great shape consistently are generally going to pick better decisions, but that's not most people. Literally, I think maybe at most 30% of the population period of America trains at all, literally lifts a weight or steps in a gym, leaving a significant amount of people that aren't doing it. And having this as an underlying truth and way that you operate is super important for your day-to-day life. It's really something to pay attention to, understanding what your strengths and your weaknesses are, what your automatic behaviors are, and how we can remove decisions. And I've gone over decision fatigue a lot as well. Because motivation and willpower will not be there when you need them. And having a process at which you go through picking out foods is what is going to be the most important thing. And having a plan that allows you to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses is what we all should be focused on because just think about business. That's what you do in business to be profitable and be successful and in your career, but we don't think about it in your actual health. Next topic is the identity research that changes. And what we have is a systematic research review that looked at people who lost weight and kept it off for 3 or more years. That is real long term success. The researchers wanted to know what separated the people who held onto the results from those who bounced back. Even think of The Biggest Loser. Netflix had a three-part series that talked about their experience and where they're at. The majority of them gained the weight back and some. And that's tragic for all the hardship that they went through. And researchers found the things that they expected consistent self monitoring in some form, and they were thinking about it. And there's some sort of a cognitive and behavioral structure to food choices and regular exercise were the things that did it. In my brain, I automatically think, okay, where's the protein? What vegetables I have? And how do I make sure that this isn't too many calories when I eat? That is just a basic automation that runs in my brain to keep me on track. Whereas the exercise, hey, there's a certain amount of steps I need every day and movement. How am I going to check that off in my day to day? Today, I'm going to bike on my bike setup. If you saw my Instagram, I posted a head slat stand up desk that I made, and I found an old bicycle. Looks like it's from the 80s. It's a magnetic tension bike, and it works out perfect. It's not loud. I sit up right, and I can train while I work and just do day to day stuff. That's super important because these behaviors that I bake into my everyday life allow me to maintain health without having to work too hard. So I can sit down and ride the bike for an hour while I'm doing emails or replying to text messages and such, and it not be detrimental to taking more additional time. And I constantly have people end up doing that in their life. How do we make it easier for you to be more successful in long term habit and change, especially around exercise? Can we walk and talk? This is so important because if you can do that, then you can find the maintenance mode that you actually need. Losing weight is hard, but maintaining it is actually easy. And the biggest challenge that I have with people is that they can lose weight, but they can't keep it off. And we have to find that sustainable long term approach, oftentimes because they've white knuckled the process and it doesn't work very good for them. So find actual behavior patterns and structure into your day to day life that moves you toward your health goals. I want to talk about just a difficult moment, discomfort that comes into people's lives. 6 to 12 months more without any type of real system or approach will leave you back where you started. So you can spend the next like 3 months, 6 months going hard to create the approach and the process, but it's not going to lead you to the long term outcomes that you want for yourself. And that's super important to make sure that you are paying attention to that. Social connection as an important piece of this whole structure, covering something that almost never comes up in fat loss conversations. And its research is really clear that the relationship is that you have in your world are definitely variables that help you either get healthier or not so much. I know it sounds like a self-help book, but something that belongs in the conversation, especially for guys with about metabolism and body composition. And the real data shows that social isolation and loneliness are associated with real bad health markers, increased risk of disease, chronic illness. And this loneliness affects cortisol levels, sleep quality, immune function, and inflammatory markers. These are problems that you don't know that are happening. And a lot of guys are in a lonely, isolated place. This is not good. And this affects your hormonal environment in your body and most certainly affects fat loss as an opportunity to happen and even weight maintenance. Because if you're stressed, then you're likely to want to overeat. The data also shows that what happens when you study men and in strong social networks versus those who are isolated, the downstream effects on other behaviors around their health and consistency in exercise and nutrition are pretty significant. And that's important to know that your social networks help you stay healthy. I've talked a lot about how I have a couple buddies that I work out with and move and exercise with to spend our time together. Not we don't go to the bar and drink or something. We exercise and we move our bodies to stay healthy and feel better that way. Now, this is important because in your 40s and 50s, guys, you're really busy. You're juggling a lot of things. There's the majority of people, guys, that I'm working with have kids that are newborn to teenage and in college and such. And this is where you're focused on your family, on your career, and not on yourself. And you don't really actually have meaningful relationships outside of it, anyways. So this isolation does take a toll on your overall health. That's one reason why I built the Call to Rise, my men's group, a 100-day fat loss challenge to lose 20 plus pounds and make sure we rid ourselves of any chronic illness for the next 1, 2, 3 decades that we're here. The average guy only lives 76 years young. I'm 43. I'm not excited about that number, actually, now as I think about it. But doing the coaching in a supportive environment, and oftentimes a lot of guys cannot find people local to them that make actual real progress here, to be consistent with their exercise or have exercise workout buddies or just someone that actually is on the same side of them. And that's what the brotherhood is all about. So if you do need some help with doing this together in a process and a program that actually makes sense, then that's what the Call to Rise is about. And I'd love to have you and talk about it. So just go to thecalltorise.com, check it out, and we'll talk. We've got a thriving community of guys that are crushing it. Episode 60 of Driven for Health talks about 3 guys who lost 98 pounds during the holidays this last year while juggling life responsibilities. And it was pretty wild. So I shared their stories. And episode 34 is Lucas's story. Episode 43 is Mike's. And episode 53 is Andy's. All right, moving on. So we have progressive overload. This is so important that uh, the I can't tell you how much is basic strength training. There's no magic around which specific approach you do in the gym. You have to do one that you're excited about and one that gradually builds strength over time. And you have to consistently show up to the gym to build that strength, build that hypertrophy, build your body's functionality. And again, I reference that it feels like only 30% of the overall population, period, actually train. So there's a huge gap in the amount of people who like lift weights and exercise and those who don't. And the principles of basic strength training are progressive overload. Lift a little bit more than you did and provide yourself with a stimulus so that you can get stronger over time. And then we just lift and move our body in a way that we want. Right now, I used to do CrossFit and I used to do endurance training. And right now, I'm just doing basic strength training and some biking to help get my body staying in shape and ready for that Akron marathon that I want to do and perform as I recover my glute injury that's like 5 weeks old. It's just tremendously taking forever. So many guys want to know what the perfect plan of exercise is, and they're literally just, can you get to the gym 3, 4 days a week and lift the thing and not stare at your phone the whole time? That is super, super important in this whole process. And progressive overload is just a philosophy for life. Things are going to constantly get harder, and you have to be able to lift a bit more. You have to be able to do more, manage more in this life that we have. And feels like, my 4th decade here is a lot of heavy lifting with all the responsibilities that are happening. Moving on to some of the practical takeaways from episode 83 and 84. We walk you through dinner every night, 10 minutes. We got to work out, we got to walk, and make sure that after you get done eating, that we can just go for a little walk. And this will help you manage your blood sugar levels a bit better and stabilize them. It's an easy thing to do, especially if you're dealing with some levels of chronic illness. If you never tracked or weighed or measured your food, it's something that's super easy to do. It's not as hard as you think. And when you do it for 2 weeks, you'll actually be that much more in the know of what's an actual proper portion size because humans consistently underestimate and overthink what they're doing. It's literally, oh, this is only 100 calories. It's actually 150. And you do that 3 times in a day, you have 150 more calories than you think, and you are going to lose. We always want to build pro- protein first meals, protein and vegetables. Where's the protein? Where's the fiber? Those are the questions that you should be thinking when it comes to building meals. We need to cut out liquid calories. This is an easy win. If you have sweetened anything that you're drinking, what is the non sweetened alternative? Going back to the artificial sweeteners, if that helps you reduce the amount of calories you drink, great. Let's start there. Get on the scale at least once a week, or if you aren't a dramatic drama mama around your scale, then let's measure that consistently throughout the week too at variable times. At least Monday and Friday will help you stay tight on the weekends and keep you successful. If you haven't checked in with your doctor in a while, maybe it's time to go actually do a blood panel. And I actually have private blood panel reviews that I do with clients. You just have to email me at brian@brianparana.com and I will check out yours. And we can have a 15-minute free call and I can go over it with you and analyze it and help you understand what's a real actionable plan that you can actually use moving forward. And then you need a structure, a program, some sort of a process that allows you to stick to your goals. And those are the main pieces that are going to move you in the right direction. I hope that you enjoyed part two of my long episode here on why your body is working against you for fat loss and what to do about it. I'll be coming back with episode 85, a jet fighter pilot, Mr. Brad Lehman, and owner of Swing Sesh, which is a backyard playground equipment set that is really cool. So we talk about aviation mindset and also one cool openers that really impact me. And I put it right at the beginning of the episode is you're 80% likely to teach your kids that they are going to become the adult that you are now than the ones that you want them to be. That's powerful. And we're going to go over a lot of what he did to be successful in the Marines and fly jet fighter pilots about planning and preparation and all. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for visiting, listening in to Driven for Health.